regarding building and offering a cloud solution. And building and offering a cloud solution doesn't end there. The question is, what happens next? And that's what this call is all going to be about. My name is Steve Parry. I'm the EMEA Business Development Director at CA from the ArcServe team. So, hosted service. What is it? Well, in essence, it's a server or a rack, and you've probably virtualized it. Your system, maybe RAID 5, RAID 10, or any form of redundancy built into it so that you've got resilience. Actually, you'll have a tape device for long-term retention. You store everything. And you'll have that built around an infrastructure of a SAN or some kind of networking built together. You'll put it on it because you're already doing hosting. It could be just hosting storage, but it's more likely that you'll be hosting applications, maybe Microsoft Exchange offering a hosted email service, or applications that run on databases like SQL, for example. You've got a data center. It sounds very grand, but the reality is a data center isn't a big thing. Anybody could have a data center. But then the outside world. So you have external connectivity. Again, very, very simple to have. Most people have broadband within their home. It's very common and very simple to put an external link in. And then you sell users to the end users. It's simple, isn't it? It's very easy. You can become a service provider overnight and get a market. But it's simple. What actually happens next? Well, the reality is in the market, there are thousands of people that are offering hosted services. This is just a sample check from one website. If you look at the website hosting directory, you'll find over 1,000 hosting providers in the UK, 500 in Germany, and so on. But this is only a sample. There's a lot more than this if you really start to look for them on web searches. Second, start from the rest of the people that are offering services in the cloud. Well, one of the things is look to reduce the costs that you're delivering your service with. If you're a hosted email service, one of the ways to turn heads is obviously to have a very competitive price. It's quite common for people not to be very successful because they're far too expensive. The other thing is you could expand your service catalog. So rather than just having, say, hosted email, you could expand that and start adding other applications into your offerings. Or you could expand it for a hosted backup service or hosted storage, hosted web. There's a lot of things that you can add to your service catalog so that you start to bring in more business from existing clients and obviously more new prospects. Optimize costs. If we look at that first of all, it's a bit of a balancing act. How do you optimize your cost? Well, if you want to reduce the cost of the components for your service, I've already looked at a few of them, things like the servers, things like the applications that you're going to run on them, the infrastructure. In optimizing those costs, you need to that out with ensuring that you can still do SLAs and that the service is competitive. There's no point in taking out certain elements only to find that actually you can't achieve SLAs. If you have this level that says that you'll maintain availability for 4 hours, but no disaster recovery plan or no business continuity plan within your offering, you do run the risk of failing. Just a few things that I've thought of that you should be looking at. You could own your own servers and your own disk space. You could create your own data center where you need to basically have the upfront cost. You could lease servers. There are companies that lease hardware, but for upfront costs, there's a short-term hit, and that is how much money you're going to pay up front before that money paid back from the revenues that you'll get. Now, revenue you typically get from a service you'll get on a monthly basis. So renting data center space with a monthly fee could be an option. You don't necessarily have to build your own data center. You could rent space from a local provider. And it is a flexible way of doing things. But if you afford it, then long term, you obviously have the opportunity to make more profit from having your own data center. Now, what's software? If you have software up front, typically vendors who sell software licenses say that those licenses are only for the use of the licensee. So you need to look into the paperwork, legal reasons for changing the parameters of the agreements. And the legal paperwork usually dictate that you can allow you to use the software for third parties. So be very careful when you're creating your service and your hosting environment that you have the right licenses for the software you're using to services that offer leasing. So people like Microsoft, if you wanted to offer a hosted email service using Exchange, you could use their SPLA program, Service Provider License Agreement Program. Same with virtualization technology. There are people like Microsoft, Citrix, that offer monthly fees for using their software within services. And a wide range of security vendors do the same thing. So it's monthly fees. It gives you economies of scale. You pay for what you use as you use it, so with your service. But what about the systems and data availability? Well, if you buy all of the hardware up front, that becomes very expensive. And the same with software. If you wanted to buy all of the data protection software and pay for it up front, you should do that if you've got money in reserves that allow you to break even after 2 or 3 years. But the reality is, monthly software cost is far more viable. And in particular, not just monthly, one that mirrors how you're selling your. If you're selling a backup as a service, you want it to be licensed for the software that you're using and pay for what you've used after you've used it. If you're doing an email service, Exchange, you want to be able to protect that Exchange system. You need to protect, i.e. when you've actually got a customer that has ticked the box that says they want that level of SLA. Now, look at your environment. You might have some physical servers, or you might have virtual metrics of licensing. Would you say a server license and say for each Exchange server, here's your cost, or would you for each gigabyte of data? So you need to look at the different flexibility of licenses in the marketplace to see which one fits what you're looking to do. And this comes in. Arcserve have a range of technologies from the Arcserve backup that uses mechanisms ideal for your hosted environment to achieve the legislation of a lot of companies that you'll sell to. And that is, you need to retain data for periods of time. That Arcserve backup, putting it on tape, allows longer retention periods. But for immediate access, you might be interested in a disk image-based backup that gives you bare metal recovery to a different platform, or virtual standby, where you spin up another virtual machine in the event of a disaster. Or you might want to port data from your data center into another data center for DR purposes using a replication, or high availability if you needed business continuity, where you could redirect all of the systems at the touch button. All available from the Arcserve family of products that to either do physical, virtual, or cloud protection. Now, transposers to in terms of SLAs, what we're talking about are ROs and RTOs. The recovery points and the recovery time objectives. How far back in time are you prepared to have lost your data compared to how far in time do you want it to